Hi everyone, today I'm going to be discussing Come and See. This is a Soviet film from 1985 and it was directed by Elem Klimov. Klimov co-wrote the screenplay for this film with the writer Alice Adamovich, who wrote the books Katyan and I Am from the Fiery Village, which the movie is based on. With Come and See, they craft a pitch-black film that relays the experiences of surviving World War II through the main character, Fliora, played by Alexei Kravchenko, who's a stand-in for Adamovich's time as a child soldier. This intimate quality is what separates Come and See from other war films, even some of the most passionately made like Steven Spielberg's Schindler's List, because instead of looking at war through a historical lens, distancing itself from the horrors of the subject and choosing an observational perspective, Klimov crafts an intimate endurance test that brings the viewer as close to experiencing the characters' tortured souls as humanly possible. This film is known for being the darkest of the dark. It is often ranked as one of the most visceral experiences in cinema history. Simply put, it needs to be, because to do anything less would disrespect the dead and the tortured. This is a story crafted by men who experienced this horror firsthand, stared death in the face, and have a moral obligation to convey this hellscape in all of its bloodshed, yes, but also its surreal beauty. As hard as it is to imagine this film as anything other than pure chaos, Klimov and Adamovich gained enough perspective by this point to show that there's more to war and survival than just skin-crawling dread. What they craft in this work, as archaic and unconventional as it is a coming-of-age story for young Fliora. He begins as a naive boy playing soldier with his friend in defiance of their village elder who warns them that their games will attract unnecessary attention. Fliora digs up the rifle in the sand and he thinks he's ready for battle. He's a dopey kid with starry-eyed patriotism and dreams of fighting the good fight against the Nazis, and is soon recruited despite this act breaking his mother's heart. These early scenes where Fliora performs mundane tasks at the army camp are wonderfully childish, actually. The moment that really strikes me is when he's scrubbing out the inside of a pot and glances at the young nurse girl, Glasha, played by Olga Marinova, and then tries to quickly duck down into the pot when she approaches. The reaction on his face when she sees him there and throws flowers onto him is such a boyish look of embarrassment. You can tell that young love is brewing between the two, which is made all the more tragic in retrospect when you realize that Fliora doesn't appreciate the innocence he still possesses to feel such an emotion, because at this point he wants to be a man. That stubborn perspective continues when the army leaves him behind and he storms off in frustration. Notice how he accidentally crushes a bird's nest while doing so. Then, when he and Glasha finally speak, she expresses her desire for love and children before kissing him. Everything is fun and games for them, playing soldiers, laughing, and even flirting with each other like young teenagers ought to do. It's sad then that the world doesn't wait for them to age naturally and forces them to change rapidly once the Germans start raining bombs down on their camp, and now a drastic shift occurs in the film. No longer is this a patriotic look at war and history. Flags are not flown and no one discusses what it means to fight for one's country. All those concepts, when you get down to it, are of a civilized world, which Come and See is not concerned with. This film brings the characters down to their most primal instincts as they fight to survive in a world that has gone to hell. Life is the only thing these characters have, and everything else is merely a distraction from the ultimate battle against death. When people discuss this film, one of the defining elements that is consistently mentioned is its ability to encapsulate subjectivity. This is where an inherent dichotomy is apparent in the film's style, as the gritty war violence is offset by a surreal quality that intensifies the emotional and psychological impact. Beginning with the aftermath of these bombs is the frustratingly chaotic sound design to emulate Fliora's damaged hearing. As viewers, we try to listen for the sound that's trying so hard to break through that piercing, ringing, and muffled design, but it doesn't always materialize. It's much more than just his damaged hearing we're experiencing. Fliora's psyche is also apparent in the archaic sound design because, as we can put together, his mind is delirious and is going in all kinds of strange and abstract directions. After the initial bombing, he's looking around and the crackling sound of the radio from the camp that played in an earlier scene can be heard. This isn't literal, it's Fliora's scattered mind trying to recollect any semblance of what once was to pull himself back together. This demented subjectivity also permeates the visual style, the most curious of which occurs after Fliora and Glosha escape into the woods. The images here are not what you would expect from a war film. Fliora and Glosha exhibit manic joy, shaking trees as it rains, even showing a rainbow refracting off water droplets. What's more, we see a stork come out of hiding, suggesting how life continues after death and destruction. To me, this moment represents another pivotal point in the coming-of-age story. Fliora is shirtless while Glosha's dress becomes skin-tight, and the following actions, like him sweeping her off her feet and Glosha dancing atop a box, suggest adolescent sexuality. There's no indication that they have a sexual encounter. Still, I can't help but feel like this is an allusion to blooming sexuality because, as has become clear, Fliora's story is one of a child losing his innocence amidst the hell of war. The point of no return in this horrific story occurs after Fliora brings Glosha back to his home, which is abandoned. The foreboding moment occurs when Fliora runs outside and looks down into a water well. It's easy to miss this at first glance, but the reflection that stares back at him is a vision of Fliora in the future with shorter, cut-up hair and shadows cast on his face. This scene is befitting of the title Come and See, which derives from the Book of Revelation. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. It's a harrowing image because Fliora looks into his future, his inescapable fate. He sees the face of death in his own image. It's not a coincidence that after this moment, hell soon follows. Fliora takes Glosha away, thinking he knows where to find his family and village, but he is not privy to the brutal realization that they're dead, which Glosha sees. What follows is a striking moment that combines the natural world with expressionistic terror as Fliora leads Glosha through a bog. Film critic Roger Ebert had a very astute comment about the natural world carrying this muted, nightmarish exaggeration, specifically the bog having a, quote, thick gelatinous top layer that seems like a living malevolent skin. Notice how at this point the film has used water as a transformative device. It represented purity and innocence for Fliora and Glosha at the beginning and suggested adolescent sexuality after their escape. Now, it submerges them and the viewer into hell on earth, and there's no turning back, literally or metaphorically. Their innocence is permanently gone, and Fliora realizes he can never return home after inadvertently causing his family's deaths. The bog's mud, which covers Fliora from head to toe, metaphorically stains him with the blood and mutilated flesh of his family and village, accentuated even more with the realization that the village elder was horrifically burned with petrol. At this point, Come and See becomes an endurance test where the only law that exists in this world is survival. In Fliora's case, he envies the dead. Alexei Kravchenko's performance is difficult to analyze because unlike other performances, there's no clear method for evaluation. Interestingly, I think his naivety makes his performance far more powerful than if it had been played by a veteran actor who's too consciously aware of themselves. For this role, Kravchenko underwent autogenic training and stress management, reportedly keeping his focus razor sharp. So much of the film's ability to reach inside the viewer is thanks to his unwavering concentration and dedication to the primality of the character. Amidst fighting for survival, he hardly has time to mourn any losses or think about what he's feeling. As such, the performance is almost beast-like, but the tragedy that wreaks havoc on his soul is still readily apparent in those haunted eyes. Klimov and his crew bring the viewer closer to the characters' souls through these intense close-ups and split diopter shots, encapsulating their despair with deep visceral intensity, reminiscent of Carl Theodor Dreyer's The Passion of Joan of Arc. You'll never forget these faces or fractured spirits after seeing this film. However, what's remarkable about the film's visual strategy is the mix of surrealist images that complement the hellscape of Fliora's damaged mind or connect the natural world to a nightmarish realm. An example of this occurs when Fliora is dodging enemy fire and a cow he's stealing gets shot dead. There's an unusual visual rhyme connecting the cow's pain-ridden eye with the moon shining bright. I don't know what Klimov's intentions were with this, but I think it all feeds back into the idea that destruction is a natural part of the cycle of life. The moon carries symbolism of cycles and shifting phases, so its connection to the cow's eye signifies, to me anyway, that death is a natural part of our evolving journey. Another perplexing image I've never fully grasped comes amidst a hellacious scene where Fliora escapes a burning church Nazis used to exterminate people. Now, this entire scene is one of the most harrowing, brutally honest depictions of Nazi evil ever put to screen, and Fliora's face again conveys a kind of fear that's nearly unimaginable. Yet, in the middle of all this, we see a Nazi woman eating lobster. In one sense, this could be an encapsulation of Hannah Arendt, the banality of evil on display, because she's just eating casually while so many are burned alive. However, I think this is another example of Klimov infusing these surrealist images with death and destruction, because strangely, it's the smallest and most perplexing details that we associate with a memory. There's a phenomenon in our brains that becomes more active in highly emotional situations, where we take in the senses and the atmosphere significantly more. I can't help but feel these strange, insignificant details seem to be those surreal qualities that war survivors like Klimov and Adamovich will never forget. Another powerful rhyme occurs when Fliora comes across a brutally raped girl who may or may not be Glasha. I've heard conflicting opinions on that. At the very least, this girl rhymes Glasha, who we recall had dreams of being a mother and having children, but now, after this horrific rape, those dreams are crushed like the bird's nest under Fliora's feet. Everything comes together in this final moment with a stunning montage. Fliora now resembles a broken old man, despite only aging maybe a month or so from the start of the plot duration. This split diopter shot is astounding because unlike most uses of this technique, which aim to hide the blurred line that separates the different fields of depth, this one makes it apparent. It's another surreal image that makes it seem like this boy, dressed similarly to Fliora at the beginning, becomes a vision of Fliora's past self, contrasted with his tortured present. Of course, it's a random kid, but he seems destined to go through the same devastating journey as Fliora. The moment that follows is truly astounding, where Fliora takes his wrath upon a Hitler the Liberator poster in a puddle. In contrast to the water well earlier that showed Fliora's future, this water image serves as a moment that reflects on the past, quite literally, because as Fliora shoots the poster, the film proceeds in reverse chronological order through montage from Hitler's rule to his infancy, in a moment that I like to call the world in reverse. What's interesting about this scene is that from Fliora's perspective, there is no montage, but rather the knowledge of evil in the world. So this archival footage is Elem Klimov talking directly to the viewer. What is he saying to us? Personally, I believe it's to say that Hitler was not a monster like we want to believe him as. No, he was a human being and he came into existence just like all of us. I don't know why we're here, why all of this exists, or what drives people to do unimaginable things, but this breathtaking ending signifies to me that all of us are capable of great or evil things. It's a matter of our environments and the exact chain of events that push us into that darkness. This idea is present in the image of Fliora's shooting. The film's original title was Kill Hitler, not in a literal sense of course, but as Klimov put it, metaphorically killing the Hitler that could be inside of us. The framing of Fliora makes it so he is pointing his gun at the viewer, so he is, in a sense, killing the Hitler within us. It's curious then that Fliora stops shooting once the montage reaches Hitler's baby picture. Curious because, again, from Fliora's perspective, there is no baby picture, so he likely just breaks down after having a moment to finally let it all out. So this juxtaposition of Fliora stopping and Hitler's baby picture is, again, Klimov saying something to us. If I had to speculate, I believe these images tell us how important it is that everyone has to be given a chance to live, because we don't know who will be capable of doing evil things. There's an oddly hopeful note I take away from this, because it seems to emphasize that life will continue, and that's an amazing thing for us to experience. It's not a coincidence then that Klimov never made another film after Come and See. He gave everything he had left artistically and spiritually and released it all in one final masterpiece for the ages. Klimov continued with life until passing away in 2003 at 70 years old. Films like Come and See are of a rare breed, where its artistry is on another level. And in a sense, it's probably good that most films can't achieve this quality, because it means that their makers haven't endured the kind of experiences that Klimov and Adamovich did, and can't manifest that into an artwork. Most of us are very fortunate that all we have to do is sit in the comfort of our homes or in a theater and watch horrific images instead of living with them. Life is a really great thing, and once you're ready for it, I recommend finding a few hours to watch one of the greatest films of all time. And that'll do it for now. Thanks for watching, everyone. YouTube's algorithm isn't kind to small channels like mine, so please hit like and subscribe. Tap the little bell icon to be notified of future videos, and feel free to comment your thoughts below. Until next time, I'm CW. Take care.